Hello, everyone. Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind. Joined by Coach Roach. I'm joined by Beyond the Locker Room, of course, as our standard affair. As per usual, we're all here. We're suited and booted, but we don't discriminate. We don't discriminate against one suit or one boot either way, like some do. So, with further ado. This is Basketball Rewind, and on this very, kind of truncated edition of it, we're going to be talking about the Eastern Conference Playoff edition. So let's just get right into it. I have two screens, so I gotta kind of keep myself to task. We talked about the Western Conference Playoff picture, which is still pretty hotly contested, but I think that there are distinct tiers slowly starting to tease their way out. So I think it's a good time to kind of talk about the East instead, as those have slowly gotten teased out as well. And also certain teams have separated themselves or kind of, again, truncated. So we we start off same as last time. Cavs are in it to win it. They have 60 wins, 2 wins behind the Thunder. Actually, have had a phenomenal season. That is going to obviously put them in first place against the 8th seed. So they would be. I mean, it's because it's a play-in thing. They would probably, say the Bulls, the Heat move on to the next round. They would probably beat. This is a good question. Do you see any one of those two bottom teams beating the loser of the Hawks or Magic?
Never count out Miami in games like that.
That's how I see it.
But
can Miami win 2 in a row
and get the set? Yes.
Get the 8th seed? Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, say it's possible. To me, it's going to be one of the Florida teams. That's the way that I look at it. That's going to end up in the 8th seed. It's either going to be the Magic or it's going to be the Heat. One or the other. Because if the Magic fall down, I think that they at least have enough physical punch to get through the Heat for sure. I think, I just don't see the Hawks losing that first matchup. They just have a lot of firepower. And I think that they have a little bit more firepower and a little bit more weapons at their disposal. So I think that they're probably going to go against the Celtics, who are the 2 seed with 55 wins thus far this season. We go along down, and then it's a lot easier to kind of read the board, which is the 4-5 matchup is now looking as the Pacers and the Pistons. Now, it's possible that the Bucks could reach the 5th spot. I don't necessarily see that happening. I think that that's a bit of a long shot, but it is possible. And for that reason, you see the 4-5 matchup kind of coming up. And then after that, you're going to see the 3-6 matchup with the Knicks and the Bucks. Let's go into the 4-5 matchup because I think that this is very interesting. It's probably going to be this matchup again to end the season. It's possible, but the Bucks at 6 would need to make up a 3-game deficit with like 10 games left, and that's kind of difficult to do, or at least a 2-game deficit. So they'd have to not only win but have to outwin the other teams by that many games. Who are you guys picking for that? Because that to me is one of the more interesting matchups. Coach?
We look toward the Pacers and Pistons or
Yes.
the Knicks, Pacers, Pistons. I'm going with the Pacers. I'm going with the experience. They've been there a few years in a row now. Another year of Siakam being on the team. I think if they're relatively healthy, I just think they take Detroit down in 6 games. And I only say that because of Detroit's inexperience in the playoffs. They've done remarkably well this year, and I think most of us picked them to do fairly well this year. I had them at least in the play-in tournament. I did not have them in the 5th seed. So they've been kind of exceeding expectations. But I just think with the Pacers' depth and experience in the playoffs, I give the Pacers probably winning 6.
Now, before Beyond goes, I'll just say I had them top 6. I didn't necessarily have them, at times, 3rd or whatever, but I had them top 6 for sure. That's just me personally. I will say I would pick them against the Pistons. And I would say it's probably going to be a 6 game series. There's possibility for it to be 7 games, but I think it's a 6 game series. I think the Pistons are just, in terms of their experience, they're a much younger team for starters. I think that's something that can't be discounted. Yes, they've added vets is fine, but the playoffs is a different animal. And when you get there, and not saying that you're shell shocked or whatever, I don't think that they're going to show up and be shell shocked. I think that they're going to surprise the Pacers, and the Pacers would probably fight back, and kind of in the end, their experience would win it. But I mean, just coming off an Eastern Conference Finals, they also have a champion on their team. I mean, I just respect to respect. They've just been, even from a coaching staff. Well, I guess from a big chair standpoint, I should say. I would say that their coach has been through more battles. I'm not the biggest fan of Rick Carlisle, but he's been through more battles. He also does have that ring. So, if he can kind of figure out his guard rotation, if he can unleash the Matherin of it all, I think that they should have a solid chance to beat the Pistons. But it ain't going to be no sweep. Beyond, your thoughts on your Pistons?
I honestly, I was hoping this is like the worst matchup possible for Detroit. I'm hoping for a Milwaukee matchup, quite honest with you. I would even take a Knicks matchup if it was the Pistons. This matchup was not one I really wanted to see. If I have my druthers, this is the one I didn't want as the 3 possible matchups.
Would you try to drop down if you were them?
Ironically, I think that's what Milwaukee's doing. I think Milwaukee's been because Milwaukee doesn't match up well with Indiana, and they don't match up well with Detroit. So I think Milwaukee says, "Oh, we'll take our chance with the Knicks, and we'll take our chances there." And I think that's because I think they look at it from the standpoint of there's not enough depth and youth that usually is their kryptonite. Yeah. That would give them trouble with the other 2 teams that the Knicks don't have. So I think they are actually, not saying they're doing it on purpose, but I would say that I don't think all these losses are just, these losses are just a normal thing. I think there's a few scheduled losses on purpose at this point.
Yes. And resting games, we'll say.
Yeah. There's some games. Yeah. There's some gamesmanship going on there a little bit. Detroit, I think I agree with you. I think it's probably a 6-game series. I think if there's any team that probably should be hunting down home court more than anybody else, is Detroit. Yeah. If they can get the home court, then things get a little more interesting. They're only a game back in Indiana. I don't know right now the season series right now. I think Indiana leads the season series.
Yeah.
That's they still have a chance to catch them if possible. And if I'm Bickerstaff, I'm trying to get that 4 seed.
I mean, I'll just ask one interesting question: is if you were to go back in time, and we talked about different trade imaginations and whatnot, would it not be interesting? I mean, there was a man in Detroit that I wanted for Siakam myself. I'm just saying. That would we haven't seen him much this year, but he would have been nice on this team, and that would be Ivan.
Playing well before he got hurt.
He was playing well. After getting a lot of flack and people not believing in him, and I heard people say he's trash and this and that. I said, kid has some game. I mean, just saying. But would be interesting because I know a lot of people were saying, well, why would Siakam want to go to Detroit? It would have been interesting if he ended up going to Detroit, not for the end of last season, but for this season. It would have been very interesting because Detroit's done quite well. And I if you were to swap Tobias Harris with Siakam, it'd be an interesting team. Yes.
I will say this. I hope Langdon gets some votes for Executive of the Year. The Pistons, the last 5 years, have been pretty bad. So
it's
sorry to say that, Beyond.
No, it is true. I mean, it was a hot mess.
Yeah, but he came in. It looks like they came in with a plan. He realized he had all this young talent: Cade, Duran, Ivy, Holland, Sasser. It's like, you know what? Let's add some vets. Let's go get Tobias Harris. Let's go get Tim Hardaway Jr. Let's go get Malik Beasley. So they did some nice things in the offseason.
They also recognized that coach was not the right coach. And sometimes you have a nice coach in the wrong situation at the wrong time. Now, some people that are on Basketball Rewind are going to take umbrage with me saying that. check yourself, because it's not about anyone in particular. It really isn't. That is an issue. What I would say is, like, for me, I just, it's true. Sometimes you have a good coach or a bad coach that's hired in the right or wrong situation. Either it works out for the person or it doesn't. Same with player development as well. Moving on to the 3-6 seed, though. That is also quite interesting. Because, like, to me, I think Cleveland is probably going to, just to go back to the Cleveland matchup, Boston's going to beat whoever. I think that they might struggle a little bit more with Atlanta than they, than they were with the Magic, but the Magic have just fallen from grace. And I think that, from what I remember, Suggs is out for the season. That is the person who really opens up their offense, because when you have spacing issues, and I just saw a good video by Ben Taylor on Thinking Basketball about this, where people talk about the Giannis offense, right? Where you have a wing and just attacks downhill. You could do it from a guard spot too, but the thing is you need someone who can attack downhill to open things up for your offense. And the Magic without Suggs don't have that. That's why he's the glue, and they tried to shore it up and get KCP as a backstop, because I guess they really wanted Clay. Unfortunately, I think Clay would have been a better fit for them. Not that KCP's bad or anything like that. It's just they really needed someone to stretch the floor.
Well, I would go one step further. I don't think it's necessarily the Clay spot that we're talking about. I think
Paul George.
No, I think they made a mistake on figuring on the value of Markelle Fultz.
That too. Yes, because he can punch downhill as well.
Yeah,
yes.
Because now they don't have a backup. Considering Suggs' injury history, it was a very big chance to take that chance. Say, okay, we won't pay Markelle Fultz because, of course, Suggs is their franchise guard. He's got picked 5th in the draft. Yeah, but
they paid Cole Anthony instead.
Right, exactly. They paid Cole Anthony, which is like, okay.
Yeah.
If you say so. I think that was what is really hurting them more than anything with Clay or KCP, is that element of a guy could get downhill, especially a big physical guard, that if Suggs got hurt, which happened frequently last year too, but they never stopped rolling because they had Markelle to come in, to kind of backstop things when it happened. So that there to me was the mistake that they made, because we were sitting there scratching our heads like, how is Fultz not picked up? He's played pretty well in Sacramento.
Yes. But yeah, so I see the Celtics beating whoever. I think Atlanta, Trey being the showman that he is, he might be able to rip off 2 games. He's actually faced the Celtics a couple times. So there's some interesting storylines there. But really, I don't see him struggling with that. I don't see the Cavs struggling with the Heat in their current form. Sorry. Or really the Magic in their current form. There's just not enough offensive juice to really stop those teams. So things don't really get interesting until the second round for those 2 teams. But yeah, we go back to the Knicks and the Bucks. Beyond, I'll start with you. Yeah, like who are you picking? Because the Bucks do have Giannis.
Yeah, I'm taking the team that has the best player.
And I don't know about the Knicks with Mitchell Robinson.
Well, I know about the Knicks with Mitchell Robinson. like once again, Suggs, when you made the deal, I looked at my dad, who's Mr. Knickerbocker. I say, like, who's playing center for you all? Because your man's hurt like every third Sunday. And he's like, I don't know what we do. And like in this case, he's a cat man, Kentucky, through and through. But he looks Randall too, Kentucky guys through and through. But he looked at this team. He's like, what are we doing with all these wings and we got no bench?
Beyond, you should tell that man. I believe you said your father-in-law should.
My father.
Oh, your father, even better. Well, no, I don't want to get you in trouble. But I'll stop talking now. But I think my point that I was trying to get at is that you should tell him that we had been talking for a while about that exact Randall for Cat swap for about a year and a half, which is funny, and it happened.
Yeah. No, yeah, he's been. I mean, well, he has his own issues when it comes to Brunson.
Yeah.
He's not. Let's put it this way: he's not sold. I'll just put it that way. And he's like,
I like Brunson, but I
think he looks at Brunson the same way. I think he looks at Brunson as a guy. Is like, very good player, but like, why has he got all this juice?
Were you gonna compare it to Fred?
Very similar, yeah, very similar.
You know what's funny? He was the guy when he was a free agent that I was like, I want Brunson over Fred.
Yeah, well, no, he's a better player, but at the
Oh
same
yeah,
time,
yeah. No. But I know what your problems are.
yeah,
He's extremely crafty. But to have someone like that as your alpha and omega, like to me, Brunson would make a great second guy,
there you go.
like and a phenomenal second guy.
Right.
To have him as the alpha omega, I don't know. Cat also is kind of proven that he's a second guy just from like a mentality standpoint, but like Cat does have the offensive repertoire to punch up all the way. The Knicks have a lot of second and third tier level guys
Right, and that's my
and a
concern.
fourth tier guy in OG, and you combine that all, and maybe it's enough to get over the top. But if they start getting a little, hobbled, we'll say, things start
Let me
looking
put it to you this
differently.
way. For you guys in this case, old school sitcom fans, I can give you a little touch here, Golden Girls. Picture this: 2025, spring 2025, Game 5 in the Garden. All right, the series is 2-2. 2 minutes left to go in the game, a one-possession game. And my man in this case here, my man down there, Coach Roach's man, Agent Zero Part 2, in this case here, is going bananas. And all of a sudden, queasy stomachs are in the Garden because they know in this case, when it comes this time, we know what time it be. You don't want that scenario if you're the New York Knickerbockers. You would prefer to play a young, plucky Detroit, or in this case, even take your chance with the Pacers, even though it will be tough. And they beat you last year, but you still feel you might have a shot. You don't want this with Giannis here with 2 minutes left to go in Game 5 or Game 7 in the Garden. And I can see it now.
This is not a good matchup for either team, and this is why. There is so much pressure in New York for all those picks they gave up for Bridges. If they lose in the first round, heads are going to roll and Tibbs is out. If the Milwaukee Bucks lose in the first round, Doc's out. The most interesting guy in this series might be Monty Williams because he might take over one of those teams.
Is this
probably,
what the
probably
Bill
the best
Simmons theory we should
on
say
the
about
market.
this is one of these all the Marvels for the Universe type of series?
If this happens, this is the most interesting series in the East.
So Doc already shaves his hair.
Yeah.
Tibbs might have no hair.
Yeah.
By the end of this, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a more. Take no offense, Pistons fans. It's gonna be a more compelling series from like a game to game. Than the other series. That's just my opinion.
No, true. But let's put it this way: Pistons Pacers ain't getting the NBA TV treatment. Okay,
no, they are not. I mean, even last year, the Pacers were in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they just ignored them.
Yeah,
but then people were like, "Oh, wait a minute, we gotta actually take a little bit of notice
this year." But like Cleveland, whoever Cleveland plays in the first round, they're getting the NBA TV treatment for the most part. Yeah. Sorry, I mean, that's gonna be rough to watch, possibly, but. I will say this with Cleveland though, and I still ain't sold on it. They have shown in this case here, they have shown time and again, they be a little soft like Charmin. And I don't know if they get the wrong match. Like I'm gonna say, if Orlando finds a way, especially when it slows down, they don't have to worry about as much offense, and they can just brutalize you for 7 games. And they have a dude who was given to Cleveland last year. I'm just saying. The little what do you want to call it? The tea leaves are sitting there where I can see it get more interesting than people think.
Well, I know that Cavs fans, when they're in these types of just listening to them, they're like Knicks fans. They're like, oh my gosh, like they're just like strapped in on a roller coaster. You're like, it's gonna be okay, man. It's gonna be it's one game.
Hey one man, game. There's a couple of guys in this case here I'm going to be watching. Boy, they got the spotlight on them, and I've seen so far the last couple of years. When the going gets tough, man, they're like milk cartons. They're on the milk carton.
We will see about Garland. Garland's my guy, but we will see about him this year. In terms of Mobley, though, I think Mobley's going to show up, and Mobley's also my guy.
We shall see.
I will say this, though. If I'm Cleveland or Boston, I don't want to see Orlando. I get it what you said about Suggs, because Suggs is kind of he drives the bus for this team in many ways. But could Paulo take over a series? Yes, he could. Could Franz take over a series?
He certainly stepped up.
And they got two, and that's why I put my two fingers up earlier.
Yeah, and Orlando's one of those series. Like Orlando's one of those teams, kind of a bit old school teams in this case, man, where it's like they might lose, man, but they're gonna take a pound of flesh out of you when you.
Oh yes, yeah. No. Like, let's put it this way. Like for Cleveland, if they end up facing Orlando, right? And I think if they were to pick their and the old Knicks, I'd say something different. But the new Knicks, I'm not as worried.
They're not like built like that.
Yeah, no. But Orlando, it's like you wouldn't say that. Oh, they just have the easy path to the Eastern Conference Finals, because it's like you might get you might be in a bar fight.
Yeah. It reminds me like how the Heat have been for like the last decade. It's like, please give me anyone in the bottom of that thing but Miami, please.
Yes. Yeah.
I know. Oh, Tyler, if he sees Miami playing Boston first round, he's gonna.
We will try to get Tyler on this pod.
Go to church a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
He might want some warm milk.
So yeah, I mean it's good. I the only other thing that I'll say is there any chance that the Bulls get out of the play-in?
It would be an improbable scenario, but there is one scenario I can see, and I say it's possible. But
I think that they match up better against Atlanta, is what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, our man in this case, who we like from day one in the draft, like, and how he starting to hum, man. Like if all of a sudden for one game, all of a sudden he's popping off doing 360 windmill dunks.
Well, we know that he could toss up a 30 ball already.
That's what I'm saying. Like how he's starting to play now, it's like now the equations look a little different with Chicago, because now he's playing like
he's a legit 6'10".
Yeah,
and they're a big team still. They've always been a big team, but like they sized up in a way. And they're running through them. And him and Kobe White, they're a dangerous team. So
they are a dangerous team, man. Like, I mean, Buzelis, we said for time, man. Like, he ain't running for nobody, man.
See, there's a part of me that would rather see them against Cleveland, even though I know that they would ultimately. It's just I want to see what they look like.
It's a better watch. That's for sure.
Yes. Because like Orlando's just gonna slow it down because they can't play fast pace right now.
Orlando, man, I want to get some ice packs ready to go.
And it's just like So anyways, that's just my thoughts. I think that just about covers it. On the back half of things, we're in a tank race, but we've kind of lost the tank race. It says that we're not. Every other team has been mathematically removed from the playoffs. For some reason, it says the Raptors still have a chance to make the playoffs. And then some people are like, listen, Miami's just won 4, we've won 3. Miami is not falling out. Miami will at least get one little bit of TV glory, that they need. The Raptors are currently sitting at 27 wins, and with the season dwindling down, and the next person down is going to be Brooklyn from our standpoint with 24 wins. And I don't think that I think we're stuck in 7th seed in terms of things. It could change people. Depending on how you want. Some people who are rooting for every single win, you could potentially get every single win that you want. But either way, we're kind of stuck at 7. So yeah. With that being said, Basketball Rewind, stay tuned. We're gonna have a couple draft episodes coming up. We're gonna be talking about Derek Queen. We already talked about Malwatch, so stay tuned to that. Check that out. We will bring him up again because he seems to be like so loved, and he's
climbing.
He's going to the moon. Some people would take him 3rd. Not me. But
don't know if I go that far with it.
But yeah, and so we're gonna go through, and just in terms of the top 10, we're almost there. We'll probably cover some dark horses, and we'll go from there. So stay tuned on Basketball Rewind. Comment, like, subscribe, possibly all 3. We're trying to get to 500 people. That's the first goal. And then from there, we'll go from there. So, take care, people. Peace. And now that it's no longer winter, I am no longer wearing as many sweaters. So, yeah.